Why does so much of modern work feel like a betrayal of who we are? We spend our days in clean, well-lit offices, performing tasks that are, on paper, respectable and necessary. Yet a quiet melancholy can descend upon us in the middle of a Tuesday afternoon. It is the ache of the wrong life, a feeling that the person we are required to be from 9 to 5 is a stranger to the person we are in our hearts. This sensation is not a sign of failure or ingratitude. It is a profoundly important signal from our inner selves, a gentle but persistent knock on the door of our consciousness, asking if we have perhaps taken a wrong turn somewhere along the way. What if work were not a source of this quiet ache, but a source of joy and expression? This is the promise of aligned work. It is the idea that our professional lives could be a reflection, rather than a rejection, of our true personalities, our deepest values, and our most natural talents. Imagine a job where your innate curiosity was not a distraction but a vital asset. Imagine a role where your compassion was not a weakness to be hidden, but the very engine of your success. This is the difference between dragging a heavy stone up a hill and guiding a sailboat with a favorable wind. The search for meaningful work is not a modern indulgence. It is a timeless philosophical quest. The ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle spoke of eudaimonia, a state often translated as flourishing or living well. For Aristotle, a flourishing life was not one of passive pleasure, but one of active excellence. He would have understood our modern predicament perfectly. The existentialist philosophers of the 20th century, like Jean-Paul Sartre and Albert Camus, wrestled with this idea in a world they saw as inherently meaningless. From this perspective, our career is one of the most significant canvases upon which we can paint our own meaning. To find work that fits, we must first know what it is we are trying to fit. The ancient Greek aphorism, "Know thyself," inscribed at the Temple of Apollo at Delphi, is therefore the most practical piece of career advice ever given. The process of knowing ourselves is like assembling a complex mosaic. What kinds of articles do we read when no one is looking? We must also be honest about our temperament, that innate wiring that shapes how we experience the world. An introvert who forces themselves into a career in sales may succeed through sheer effort, but the cost to their energy and well-being will be immense. The world of work is vast enough to accommodate every kind of personality, yet we are often presented with a very narrow range of ideal employee traits. A successful and healthy ecosystem, whether in nature or in business, relies on diversity. Consider the personality of a highly conscientious individual. This is someone who is organized, detail-oriented, and reliable. But in a role like an accountant, an airline pilot, a surgeon, or a museum archivist, their conscientiousness becomes a supreme virtue. Yet, this same person could flourish as a primary school teacher, a therapist, a human resources manager, or a diplomat. In these roles, their ability to listen, to understand different perspectives, and to build trusting relationships is not just a nice-to-have, it is the core requirement of the job. In our relentless pursuit of career success, we often treat our well-being as an afterthought, a luxury to be attended to once we have achieved our goals. Well-being is not the prize we get at the end of the race, it is the very vehicle that carries us along the journey. There is the invigorating stress of a challenge that stretches our abilities, and there is the corrosive stress of a toxic work environment. This might mean choosing a company with a compassionate culture, a role with a manageable pace, or a field that allows for a healthy work-life balance. How then do we begin this crucial journey of finding work that fits? The path does not start with job search websites or networking events. It starts in a quiet room with a pen and a piece of paper and a willingness to ask ourselves some honest and gentle questions. We might begin by creating a map of our past joys. We can ask ourselves, when in my life have I felt most alive and engaged? Within these stories of past contentment lie the essential clues to our vocational identity. In the end, the quest for the right work is not merely about finding a job, it is about the far grander and more noble project of building a life. Our work is not a separate, sealed-off part of our existence. It is the activity that occupies the largest portion of our waking hours. The beautiful truth is that when we find work that fits, its benefits ripple outwards into every corner of our lives. The energy and satisfaction we gain from our work do not stay behind at the office. We bring them home to our families and friends. The world does not need more people who are rich but miserable. It needs more people who are alive with purpose. By building a career that is a true expression of who you are. You are not just finding a job, you are answering a calling. You are building a life that feels at last like your own.